Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. Our guest today is the Secretary General of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, Ekmeleddin Ihsanoglu. He's a Turkish academic and diplomat educated in Egypt, who in 2005 became head of the OIC, the world's second largest intergovernmental organization after the United Nations, and it counts 57 members. Thank you so much for coming in. Very pleased to have you here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start with the border tension between, the escalation, I should say, between Syria and Turkey, the bombing from Syrian territory of the town of Akçakale in southern Turkey. The OIC has already expelled Syria, but are there any other measures that it could take against Syria?
Well, first of all, let me say that this is indeed was an offense. When it happened, we condemned it immediately. And we think that kind of aggression and bombings are the result of the failure of international community to deal with the crisis, the catastrophic situation in Syria. It looks that the world has a consensus on what not to do, but no consensus on what to do.
Does the OIC have a consensus on what to do?
Well, I think we agreed on suspending their membership, and we are supporting. We have been trying while we had an open channels with the regime to do our best through diplomatic missions, through sending delegations. I special envoy with the letter to the president those days, and they have promised many things, but nothing happened. At the end of the day, the member countries decided about a month ago to suspend membership.
Would the OIC back a buffer zone in northern Syria? That's an idea that's been floated in Turkey several times, with perhaps a no-fly zone to enforce it. Would the OIC push for that concrete measure?
We have supported the non-fly zone in Libyan case. And if this is the agreement in the Security Council, we'll certainly support that. But it looks that we are short of getting an agreement in the Security Council.
Mr. Ihsanoglu, I'd like to move on to one of the topics of your visit to France, where you met Foreign Minister Fabius, which was, of course, to discuss the anti-Muslim video, the innocence of Muslims. Do you believe that the protests we saw in the Muslim world represent a clash of civilizations, or more a clash within a civilization between Salafists and other movements?
Well, I think this is not a clash of civilizations. This clash of ignorance and clash of extremists on both sides, radicals on both sides. Radicals on this side, they produce this nasty film. And knowing that this film they produced will provoke people on the other side, and ignorant people who never seen the film or had any idea about what is happening, and thinking that this is produced by America, and this means that it's produced by the government or the administration or the cinema industry in movie industry in the United States, they took to the street and started attacking the embassies, etc. So it is a clash of ignorance, clash of ignorance, and a clash of extremists. And what I've been trying to say for the last 7 years since the uncivilized cartoons of Denmark published in 2005, and I think that this diagnosis has been now accepted widely, that we should not be victims or hostages of our own radicals, or radicals on the two sides. So this is a fight between radicals and extremists on two sides. We have to avoid that they dictate their agenda, and we have to prevail with people who are for good relations, for intercultural dialogue, intercivilizational dialogue, and between dialogue and building peaceful, multicultural, and peaceful coexistence in the world. Because if we cannot stop these extremists, the fire will expand and spill over, and you cannot control the mobs when they move. We have seen this all over the history.
I want to draw attention to one country in the OIC, Pakistan, which has been very outspoken about this video. And Pakistan suggested when these protests were happening that the kind of blasphemy laws that exist in Pakistan should be extended, perhaps that other countries should consider actually curbing these expressions of Islamophobia by law. Do you think a legal restriction of such things is the way forward or not?
Well, I don't like to discuss the Pakistani case as such because I'm not aware of the details of the Pakistani law, but I think blasphemy laws are existing in more than one country. And in some European countries, you have also blasphemy laws. The issue for
I'm not
us,
sure which ones you mean, none spring to mind.
well, I think it deals with the church, with the clergy, etc., etc. In some European cases, there are laws of blasphemy. Maybe in France they are not existing, but I think in other countries. But let me say that the point here is not curbing freedom of expression or putting ban or restriction. We as OIC, I as a secretary, I am a staunch supporter of freedom of expression. But freedom of expression, according to international law, does not entail freedom of insulting others, denigrating others, mocking others. And if you read the International Covenant for civil and political rights, where all our countries, 190 countries of the world, has signed and ratified, in Article 19 it says that when it defines the freedom and the freedom of expression, it's saying that it has to go with responsibility. So when you are exercising your freedom, you have to exercise it with responsibility. And I think responsibility is a major key. Responsibility doesn't entail anybody to insult other or provoke other, and particularly when you know that this provocation is going to lead people for violent actions.
Mr. Ihsanoglu, obviously that article is a guideline. It can't be imposed upon the political system of a particular country. So, for example, Britain or France can't say to its media, well, you're not allowed to do this or you're not allowed to do that. It can only say, we want you to be responsible.
Yeah,
but that's the most it can do, which the French government did.
Well, let me complete. Article 20 of the same covenant of civil and political rights say that if the right of expression or any right is misused to incitement of hatred on religious or racial basis, it shall be prohibited by law.
Incitement, though, that's very much open to interpretation because, of course, you could say that. Of course,
it is interpretation, but you have to interpret it in the sake of the public interest.
But making fun of a religion doesn't necessarily equate with incitement to violence. I mean, it could, but it's a difficult line to draw, wouldn't you say?
Now, your interpretation depends on how your understanding of responsibility. But I will give you two examples. In this country, very briefly, there were publication of a photograph of public figure of another country, a royal member of royal family, which they didn't like to be published. And I think they have the right to do that. The French court stopped that. Why not the same court would stop publishing cartoons, impolite, denigrating cartoons, mocking, insulting cartoons of a prophet who 1.5 billion people revere as a holy prophet? You may believe or not or disbelieve. This is, of course, it's matter of your personal judgment. But if you don't respect the feelings of 1.5 billion people, and if you don't feel yourself responsible not to insult them, then we have a problem here.
I think,
if we have a problem here, we will have a problem there with the demonstrations taking to the street and using violence, which we shunned and we condemned from day one, and we are condemning and we asking. When you read the statement I signed with Mrs. Ashton and the Secretary General of Arab League and Secretary General of African Union, you will see that we are condemning both the issuing of the film and using violence and the attack on the diplomats and killing them. We are equating these acts together as incitement to hatred, incitement to violence, and we say that we should not be hostages of extremists on either side.
Okay, we'll have to end it there on that final comment. Thank you so much, Ekmeleddin Ihsanoglu, the head of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. That's all for the interview on France 24.